Welcome to the Unlock Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Casey, and I'm excited for today's guest. I'm with Tony Okamoto, and Tony is the founder of Plant-Based on a Budget, which is a website and a blog that is teaching people how to shop and plan healthy meals in a cost-effective way. And she is also the co-author of the Friendly Vegan Cookbook, author of the Super Easy Vegan Slow Cooker Cookbook, and most recently made an appearance in an amazing new documentary called What the Health, which is available on Amazon, or not Amazon, but Netflix. And if you haven't watched What the Health yet, watch it this week. I promise you'll love it. It's awesome. But Tony, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I'm excited to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so why don't you start by just talking a little bit about your background so people get to know you a little bit more, and just what eventually led you to researching more about plant-based nutrition? I mean, was that always something like growing up you were into?
As you mentioned, I run the website Plant-Based on a Budget, and I've had the website since 2012. But it was always something that was kind of in the background of my life. And it wasn't until about last August, so almost a year, that I decided to jump into it full time. Before that, I had been working doing vegan advocacy and working in the nonprofit sector for animals. And I decided to have faith in myself and try my own passion, which is helping people eat plant-based foods in an affordable way. I think that's such a major misconception about being plant-based, is that it's expensive or that people can't afford to be healthy. And I knew from my own family's experience that that is a major concern, that it's easy to tell yourself that it's less expensive to go through the drive-through at McDonald's and get something off the dollar menu than it is to make your own food. But in fact, that's incorrect. It's much cheaper to make your own food and definitely healthier. So I decided to put all of my effort into this project, and it has been a really wonderful year, especially since What the Health launched in mid-June. So many people are interested in taking back their health, and it is inspiring to watch.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I mean, what led you personally to want to transition to a plant-based diet, or was that something like that you grew up on?
No, I definitely did not grow up on a plant-based diet. I ate produce at home, but it wasn't very diverse. It wasn't very diverse. I would eat like bananas and oranges and apples, and that was pretty much it. And then a lot of the other foods that we ate were like canned foods and frozen foods, and at different points in my life, we would eat a lot of like hamburger helper or hot dogs with canned chili on top. And it wasn't until I was about 16 years old that my track coach was concerned that I was eating poorly because I would get sick all the time after my runs. And so he suggested I stop eating fast food and I stop eating red meat. And I tried it out, and it did well for my body, and I began to thrive as a runner. So when I graduated from my family's house, I thought, well, I don't already eat red meat, so I'm going to try not eating meat in general. And I wasn't a very strict vegetarian. I would occasionally have broth that was like beef broth or something like that, or pick the pepperoni off my pizza. But it wasn't until I was in my early 20s, like maybe 2021, that I entered a veg club at my college campus at a community college and learned about animal issues. And that inspired me to become an ethical vegan. And that's how it started.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, there's so many different, I'm just curious because there's so many different reasons that people do make that decision. For me, it was just switching it up for health purposes. But the more you learn about all of the other things too, I mean, as far as, environmental or just the treatment of the animals, or how the agricultural business is pretty corrupt. And I know there's amazing resources for people to watch out there. I know, I mean, like, like Cowspiracy is amazing. And, what am I thinking? What movie am I thinking of that will completely rock people's worlds if they actually watch it? Oh man. Well, you know what I'm talking about?
Is it Forks Over Knives?
Oh, that one's amazing too.
Earthlings?
Earthlings. Oh my goodness. Yeah, if you watch Earthlings, it's game it's game over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there's so many amazing resources to check out. But that's cool that you started for performance for track, and that it did make a difference, and then especially through college too. That's really cool.
Yes, there were times where I wasn't very healthy at it, especially when I didn't know much about it. So, like I said, when I was picking the pepperoni off my cheese pizza,
Yeah.
and I didn't know, I didn't make the connection yet, even though I had experienced eliminating red meat and how that made me feel better. I didn't really make the connection that junk food made me feel worse.
Right.
And through education and through learning how to cook, I figured that out, and I feel better.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's cool. And yeah, I mean, it's a process. Like, there was so many of those documentaries that I watched over a few year period, and then, read books that, like Rich Roll's book and resources like that. And it was just a few years in the making of just making gradual changes. When I was pregnant, chicken just made me so sick, like the smell of it, just everything about it. So I remember like that's when I completely stopped with chicken, just because, pregnancy is so crazy on your body. Like if something like that sounds awful, it's pretty much done forever. Like it still sounds so awful. But yeah, no, it was a process for me as well. And I think it almost can make it stick more when it's a process like that, because there's no pressure. You're just making changes that make sense for you as you learn more and as you realize what your body feels good and what your body needs and like what keeps you the healthiest version of yourself, right? So it's definitely about the process, which with your resources makes it easier for people.
Yes, I would say that maybe over 60% of the people who come to plant-based on a budget are not yet plant-based. They're interested in plant-based eating and want to incorporate more plant-based dishes into their rotation, and they want to introduce their families to more produce, but they are not yet fully plant-based, which is very cool to see people stepping out of their comfort zones and eating healthier because they know it's good for their families.
Yeah, that's a cool point to make, because I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of people that check out your different meal plans just because they want to save money and at the same time keep their family healthy. But it's not necessarily the plant-based. It's not just because it's plant-based. It's because of the other reasons. Like we want to be healthy. We want to be able to do it in an affordable way. How can we do this in the most easiest, less complicated way? So that's cool. And it's a cool way to reach people that you probably wouldn't otherwise.
You're very right. I remember having a friend contact me, and he's been an ethical vegan. He works for Farm Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
He's been an ethical vegan for years, and he's told his mother over and over again about how she could be healthier and how it's more compassionate and about how it's better for the environment. But he emailed me and said, I want to thank you so much because I've been telling my mother this for as long as I can remember. And she lives on a fixed income of only like a small amount of money per month.
Mm-hmm.
And she was researching ways to eat as cheaply as possible. And she found your website, and she wanted to share with me that it happened to be plant-based. And so now she's eating plant-based because that's the cheapest way, not necessarily because it's plant-based or
right.
because she cares about the ethics part or the environment as much as she does saving money, which I thought was really cool because it touches people in different ways.
Right. It's a whole new audience. And it's cool too, because then that funnels people into your blog, which has a lot of amazing information and people can learn even more, right?
Yeah, I have different people writing writing both recipes and articles.
Cool.
And sharing their own transition stories and their own obstacles in life and how they got through it, and like learning how to eat healthier when it's not always the easiest.
Yeah, that's really cool. And whenever you were talking about, you were starting your site, you decided to go at it full time and just really put everything into it. Was there like a tipping point for that? Like, what really moved this thing along? Because I feel like you grew pretty quickly. I mean, and all of a sudden you're making appearances in really awesome documentaries. So if you want to kind of talk about how your website really grew and just the transition of that.
Well, I'm fortunate to be supported by many of the vegan organizations. Mm-hmm. They have been promoting my work since the beginning, and I'm so thankful for that. I am one of the only people who touches on the budget aspect, and all of my work is done around that focus. So when people are promoting like a Meatless Monday recipe for their organization's newsletter, they'll often include my recipes because they're easy, accessible, and affordable, and delicious, if I might say. So that's one way that we grew quickly. And I think having a diverse group of contributors is also a reason we grew so quickly, because there's something for everyone. There's something for parents. There's something for a single person. Like, how do you cook when you're working way too much and you don't have a lot of time, and it's just one person, because it's harder to cook for one person. How do you cook for a gluten-free person or a soy-free person? Or there's just something for everyone on our website. And I think because of that, people kept on coming back. And then definitely the meal plans. The meal plans are, I created those in 2013, the end of 2013. And it started out as just like as a way to express my frustration. Are you familiar with the SNAP challenge?
Oh, I mean, it sounds. I probably will once you say it. I can't. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I'll tell you about it. It was an initiative to show how little food money people received when they had like government assistance.
Gotcha. Nope, not what I was thinking.
So it's like so it's like food stamps, and people wanted to show how small of a food budget you have, and so they were going and documenting a 1 week challenge of eating with that small budget. And politicians did it, and bloggers did it, and actors and actresses, and the intentions were very good, but they weren't always executed in a way that was sensitive to people who permanently lived on a small food budget.
Right.
And I remember seeing this one where this woman was at a discount grocery store, and she was like posing, like, look at me with cheap food at this cheap grocery store. And it made me feel uncomfortable, and I didn't feel good about promoting anything like that. So I started my own challenge, asking people what it would look like for them if they were to save money and to eat healthier. And I said, if I created a challenge where I made a meal plan with a grocery list and a food budget of only $25 per week, where you ate 100% of the groceries, would you sign up? And 3,000, a little bit less than 3,000 people signed up.
Wow.
And, that was a very difficult challenge for me to do, because those are a lot of...
That's the pressure's on.
Yeah, but I did it, and those still remain to be my most popular resources on plant-based on a budget. I have the free versions. I have 1 month of free versions, and then I have a monthly $5 version. And with the $5 version, it's a little bit different because it's very polished. Mm-hmm. They have high quality photos with every recipe and a printable shopping list, and it's very well put together. And I worked on it with a person who does food photography and design and videography, and so she creates videos for the meal plans, and that is what Plant-Based on a Budget is known for. And that's why I was asked to be on What the Health, because my meal plans are helpful for people who are wanting to transition to plant-based.
Right. And I like how they transitioned your portion into that movie. Like, I feel like they placed it perfectly, because they went through all of the benefits, but then it's kind of like, well, oh, how do I do this? And is it going to cost so much money? And then, and then it shows you, going to the store with Kip Anderson and I mean, I feel like even he was surprised when you guys checked out and you're like, yeah, I have this buggy full of food is like $25 and it's going to last him the entire week. And the cashier's kind of like, I don't even know how that's possible, but it's really cool.
Yeah, it was funny how that happened. I enjoyed how the cashier was also shocked by how little the amount of food is. And it's actually a really huge process. I go there for hours and I study the prices and I see how you can make tasty food on the lowest budget possible, because all of the money that I spend is usually, I try to keep it less than $20 so that there's some flexibility for people who don't live where produce is as cheap as it is in California. And it's hard. My last meal plan, I came out to $18, but I spent about 4 hours in the grocery store looking at prices, walking around, looking at recipes, being like, okay, I could use this onion in here and in here and in here, but where can I use a split peas?
Right.
And so, yeah, it's an enjoyable feeling to see people using it and having it be helpful to them and their families.
Definitely. And I think what's cool about it too, Tony, is like, if there's things you want to substitute out, like if you're not necessarily on a budget to where you can spend a little bit more of, $25 or whatever the price of the certain plan is, like you could always substitute things out, because I know that I was reading somewhere, you kind of gave a disclaimer on one of the plans, because it was like, when I made this plan, some of the items are not necessarily the healthiest, like a few of the oils and things like that. But, you have the option to substitute things for, if you don't want to use sugar in a certain recipe, like swap it out. Like there's still ways to do it if there's certain food groups that you don't want to consume.
Right. Right. And in my newer meal plans, I get better at doing it every month, because we have a support group available for the meal plans and people get to give feedback. And I also have a survey that goes with the meal plans. And I hear a lot of feedback from people, and some of them live in Portugal and some of them live in London. And I get to hear what food prices are like everywhere.
That's awesome.
And I get to hear what was easy and what was hard, and then modify my next meal plan based on the feedback. And this is an every month process where I'm taking into account everything that was told to me the month prior. So that's been really exciting. And one thing that I do now is I still continue putting an asterisk next to the things that you can take out of the meal plan if you're on a super tight budget and you don't have the $25. So you can maybe take out some of the dried fruit or some of the seeds in the oatmeal or something like that. But I also now put in additional, optional additions. So if you're not necessarily on a tight budget and you want to make it more flavorful and you want to add more produce, these are the things I suggest.
Yeah, that's cool. So the like you were talking about the $5, and that's like a one-time payment, right? And then that's basically that's going to update them each month with new meal plans.
Yes, and each
so that's awesome. So it's not like a monthly payment; it's just like one time $5.
Yes,
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, especially considering all of the work that you're putting in, like the 4 hours in the grocery store. Like people don't see that.
Yeah, it takes us about. So there are two people working on it, and then we split the $5. And it is about, for each of us, about a 40-hour time commitment to each meal plan. And it is hard work. We usually do 1 week. Like we'll do 1 week of every day. This is the only thing we work on. So it is a big time commitment, but it's also very rewarding because of how many people it can help.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I mean, it makes it so much simpler, especially for a busy family, like you were saying.
Yeah. It's nice to hear from people. Our Facebook support group that we offer with the meal plan is very active, and we get to know the people and we get to hear how their families are doing on the meal plans. And I think that is just a gift to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And do you want to touch a bit on your newest cookbook? Because you just put one out. I'm not exactly sure on the date that you put it out, but the Crock-Pot cookbook.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's called the Super Easy Vegan Slow Cooker Cookbook. It is a mouthful, and it is a delicious mouthful. And it was put out in late May 30th. And it shows you how you can eat with very little effort. I think a lot of people feel that crock pots are this thing that their like moms had to cook tough cuts of meat and
Beef
they
stew
did
and all
beef
of that.
stew and pot roast
Right.
and they don't think of it as a tool to help them cook vegetable dishes, but you can actually cook a lot of vegetable dishes. So in my cookbook, I did all of the prep work in 15 minutes or less.
Nice.
And then most of the recipes are 8 hours of cook time. So you can prep for 15 minutes or less, dump all your food into the crock pot, and then go to work, come back and have a healthy meal for dinner.
That's awesome. I need to check that out because like I've had my crock pot. It's sitting in my pantry. It's been sitting there for like a year and a half, and and I always forget about it. But it would make things so much easier if I did that. So I'm definitely going to be getting that for sure.
And even if you don't use it to cook like hearty meals, it's nice to cook some basics. You can throw your lentils overnight while you sleep.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
when you wake up, you have lentils for the week, and you can add different things to your lentils throughout the week. My neighbor, she does 1 or 2 meals in a crock pot every week, and those are her lunches to take to work every week. So it's just cook 2 times, total of 30 minutes prep time, and then you have food for the week.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, especially with like beans like that. And I'm sure this is probably one of the biggest things that you're like teaching people whenever, you're trying to find healthy foods like that on a budget, because if you can buy if you can buy in bulk, especially beans, like you can buy such a huge bag of different types of beans or like rice, and it's so cheap. Like, a can of beans is it's super convenient. But that might be $2, right? Probably more than that actually. But a large bag of beans would probably be, you could probably answer this better. Like how many cans of beans are in one of these like large bags that are probably like $1?
Yeah, they are about $1. And if you live somewhere that has a grocery store, Winco, which is where I shop, you can get your beans for about 65 cents per pound.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's very, very, very cheap.
Yeah, and I think the prep is what steers people away. Just I know for me, we tend to buy the canned beans just pure laziness. It just makes it so convenient sometimes. But I love that, just using the crock pot to make it even easier, because I don't think it can get any more easy than just pouring it in and just letting it
leaving it
hang out for the entire day. No, that's awesome. How long do you usually cook it for? Just to kind of get on the details of that, because I'm probably going to do that later.
I usually just throw it in on low and go to sleep, and when I wake up, I get it out.
That's awesome. What about do you do it often with rice as well?
No, I don't use it as often for rice. And rice on the stovetop is, if you're doing brown rice, it's 40 minutes. If you're doing white rice, it's about 20 minutes.
Oh,
and
it would just overcook probably.
Yeah, it gets it if you don't know how to do it properly and you don't have a lot of experience, it will get soggy. It'll turn into like a porridge.
I gotcha. Yeah, rice is pretty easy enough, but I was just wondering, just throw everything in there. But that's cool though.
But when you're doing something like a soup, that's a perfect opportunity. Then I don't care if my rice is a porridge. I throw in my rice and my vegetables, whatever I have in the refrigerator. That's a great thing for crockpots are great for that. To just dump everything you have that's going to expire and let it do its thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. So what is so random question about you. What is your favorite type of food to cook or to prepare as you're making all of these plans?
My favorite thing I would have a soup in every meal plan if I could. They are the cheapest. I love soup. You can do so many different things, but I'm trying. I didn't do one soup in the last one because people are like, no more soup.
I love
So
soup
I didn't
too.
do it. I didn't do a soup, and it's really hot. I live in Sacramento. It's over 100 degrees every day
Oh
this week.
man.
So I would still eat soup, but I know that people who eat with me don't want to eat soup because it's 100 degrees.
Right.
So that is something I do enjoy cooking because of the ease and how healthy it can be. But I also like making tacos. You can do so many different types of tacos. I do like corn tortillas. I put them on an open flame. Um, then I top them with either tofu, oyster rizo, or beans and sweet potatoes. And you can just do so many different things with tacos.
Yeah, that's great. I think Mexican's probably my favorite go to as well.
It's very yummy.
Yeah, and no, I love what you're doing, and I really I love the community aspect of it because I think that's what it's all about. Is whenever you have that support and you have somebody that you can kind of be accountable with and just bounce ideas off of, that's when people can really learn it and make lifelong changes, which is incredible.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have friends or family who are vegan and they live in the middle of nowhere or in a place that there aren't a lot of vegans or in a culture where veganism isn't really celebrated. So to have an online support system is extremely helpful. I see people all the time talking to each other, sharing their personal stories and their struggles and providing encouragement. And for me, I wouldn't be vegan without the support of my veg club when I was in my early 20s and interested in learning more about veganism. They really helped me and they gave me examples of people who were like me, who were young and poor and still able to thrive on a plant-based diet.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I you kind of brought up the next point I was gonna talk about too. It's just, we're gonna spend money anyways, and if people can learn how to at least be healthy with the money they do spend, because I mean, we spend money for we spend money for things that we most value, and I think if you just take a second to think about that, for just that fact alone, it would really shock most people, because like we pay $200 plus for cable, or like $50 a week on coffee, and then whatever's left we spend it on food, when it needs to be 100% the other way around. And you either pay for it in a grocery store, or you're going to pay for it, I mean, unfortunately, down the road as a hospital bill. And I think what you're doing is amazing, because you're teaching people like it can be done, and you can still pay for those things that you enjoy, but there's ways to still be healthy, even with that.
Yeah, my parents really love saving money on food, and sometimes that's at the expense of quality, but have no problem splurging on lots of material possessions. And over time, that's changed. They've learned to eat a lot healthier, but it has come at great cost already in my family, with the loss of people who have suffered before they passed away due to diet-related health issues.
Yeah, that's awful, and I mean, and we see it way too much, especially now.
Yeah, and especially in lower income communities and communities of color, they unfortunately don't have access to healthy food a lot of the times, and
I mean, there's like literally like
nutrition
food
education.
deserts. I mean, they don't even have the access to it. And and I think it's cool. Like there was an article. It was actually pretty cool, because I was checking out your website. I noticed that one of your articles, it had Stickman from Dead Prez. Yeah. So it's a rapper, for people that don't know, but he's doing so much in like the inner cities, and trying to get it out there that it's like it's doable, like it's cheap. It doesn't matter where you're from or where you're currently at, but it's doable for literally everybody. And kind of breaking down the walls with that kind of misconception that it's for. I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes with eating a plant-based diet, and he's kind of breaking those walls a little bit.
I hope so. He does really wonderful work, and his wife Afia does really wonderful work. He is promoting like Fit Hop, which is reaching out to communities who listen to hip hop and explaining the importance of healthy living and empowering each other to make healthy choices. I love it so much. And I don't know how he does it, but accomplishes so much outside of being a talented musician and artist, and being a father and a husband, and just so much good in the world outside of his like what you can see.
Yeah, for sure. And how did you get connected with him? Just through some of the groups that you were a part of?
No, I just reached out to him. I said, hey, I have loved your music since I was a kid, and I bought Let's Get Free when it came out, and it's been really inspiring, and I love your message, and I was wondering if you'd write on my blog. And at the time, my blog was it had a somewhat of a following, but not that big. And he was so nice to me and responded personally. Sometimes I get messages from people and they're like, this is so-and-so's assistant.
Right.
and it's very impersonal.
Yeah.
But he responded to me and said he would be happy to write an article. And that article ended up going viral. It got, I think the first day it came out, 100,000
wow
visitors. So it was a very popular article and received a great deal of media attention.
That's amazing. Yeah. And that just helps you get your message out even more as well. That's really cool.
Yeah. I'm grateful that he was so kind and gave me the time.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. And Tony, what is, like, if people want to go check out the different plans that you have and check out your blog and check out his article on your blog and just see everything that you're up to, what would be the best way for people to find your website and where to follow you on social media?
On plantbasedonabudget.com, you can find the free resources like the free meal plans, tons of recipes, articles like Stickman's, which is called 7 Ways to Eat Good on a Hood Budget. And then on plantbasedmealplan.com, you can find the $5 meal plans. And you can find me on Facebook at Plant Based on a Budget, Twitter at Plant Based Blog, and Instagram at Plant Based on a Budget.
Perfect. Awesome. And then Tony, just closing question for you that I ask every guest. If you have just one piece of advice that you could give the audience, maybe it was something that helped you along your journey, but if you only had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
I would say that if you're considering plant-based, set yourself up for success. Don't beat yourself up. Don't get angry at yourself for not being able to go all or nothing, because it's not all or nothing. It's about progress and not perfection. And I think that every healthy choice that you make should be celebrated, and we should just keep moving forward at a pace that we feel comfortable with and that sets us up for long-term sustainable plant-based living.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. I love it. And thanks for taking time to come on here. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to keep up with your website and to check out that cookbook. I'm probably going to start making things from that this week. So
thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Tony. She's doing amazing work. All of her content is awesome. So be sure to check out her website, her social media accounts. They have so much great information to help you and your family eat healthier and eat healthier on a budget. So check out her website, check out her content. I have all of those in the show notes, but you can also go to my website at drkaseyjohnson.com. That's DRKASEY Johnson.com. And on the site, you click on the Listen tab. And from there, you can go through and see each podcast guest that has come on the Unlock Wellness podcast. So you'll see Tony's episode. You can see more information about her. And you'll also be able to click on the different links that go to her social media accounts and her website. So all of her information will be there as well. So be sure to check it out. And if you enjoyed today's episode, jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot. And I really appreciate all of the support. So thank you guys so much for listening and have an amazing day.